Sorry. It's been a long 2 days. Friday, May 29th, 5th period, as we have our last talk of Bondi-ishness. So we were talking about my first fight, but I hadn't gotten there yet. We'd gotten to the fact that I was getting better at football. And with me getting better at football, it was Rob and Darren that kept hitting me. And I remember those are the big events. It's weird as you go through life, like not everything will stay back in your brain, but it's the big events that sort of pop back for you. And him hitting me when I did that. But I know he did other things just throughout the season, but I refused to quit, which just kept bugging him the entire time. And remember, we got to the last game of the season. Excuse me. Sorry, the last game of the season, and I was all excited. Thank you. Because we got to play at the high school, at Noblesville High School, on like the big field. So it wasn't the junior high field. It was all good stuff. And I was actually going to get to play in a game because I mostly just played on kickoff. Because they found out that eventually I got good enough that on kickoff I could tackle people with the ball. Then on the football team, the kickoff and kickoff return, they can put anybody in there. It's just they kick off the ball and then you grab it and you have to just run. And for the most part, you just run in different directions. And if you're horrible at that, it doesn't really matter too much. So I was all excited because every time there was a kickoff or a kickoff return, I got to run out there for it. In the game that we were playing in this last one, the game was really close. And I remember they scored towards the end of the game. And they got not us, but the opposing team got a touchdown. And it was the field goal team came out for them, and our field goal, the defense came out. And I got to go in, and I was all excited about it. So the coach put me in. I had no idea why. I didn't have much going for me except for height. I was tall and skinny like a tree. And so I remember being out there, and the opposing team kicked the ball. And when they kicked the ball and the little ball has to go up through the goalpost, being tall, I was able to get up. And I got high enough that I was able to use my hands and block it. And I actually hit the ball so it didn't go across the crossbars. And so I was able to stop the field goal. And I was all excited. It was the absolute highlight of my football career. Hit the ball, and it fell down. And I remember just being so elated. I was like, I'm not awful. I'm just partly awful. And then we were all, they switched the teams. So we were running off the field. And we were running off the field, the coach yelled out, I was like, who did that one? He was like, who blocked that ball? And before I got a chance to say it was me, Darren spoke up and said it was him. And he claimed credit for it. And he hadn't even been on the field. And he got credit for it, which I remember really made me mad. Because as I was running off, and Darren, I'm guessing, knew it was me. And he stepped forward. I was like, that was me, coach. And coach was like, good job, Darren. That's exactly what I want, you getting up like that. And I remember just like stabbing me. I was like, that's horrible. And by that time, I couldn't yell out loud, like, no, that was me, because then who's going to believe me? I was the skinny, twiggy kid versus the kid that was all studly on the team. And I remember it was just a mean thing that hurt, and it just sat wrong with me. But that was the last game of the season. And so our season ended, and we got to go from there to like the next day when you have to turn in all of your equipment. And remember, it was equipment turn-in day. And with equipment turn-in day, in the locker rooms, you'd have to take all your whole big pile of stuff, and the coach would call your name, and we were all sitting in the locker room, like just sitting and talking and stuff like that. And I was like, hey, I got through a season and stuff is good. And I had gone and turned in my stuff, the shoulder pads and all those pads, stuff like that. And I had handed them over to the coach, and I was walking back to sit down next to my friends, because I had a bunch of friends on the team. And as I was walking by, Darren came by. And when Darren was walking the other way, he did the shoulder thing, when you just sort of hit someone with your shoulder and spin them around. I remember he hit me with his shoulder, and it made me like stumble and fall, and like I hit another kid. And they talk about snapping and like seeing that red haze, which has never happened to me, except for this time. And I snapped. Which, looking back on it, it's weird. It's a moment where you don't fully have control over your body. Because I don't fully know why I did what I did next. But he hit me, and he turned around and just gave me a look. Just like, you are so scummy that I would not even wipe my shoes with you. I would just throw them away. And so I just kind of went, and I ran at him and grabbed the front of his shirt with both of my hands in this area. And then I'm not normally strong, but I'm guessing it was, a Hulk dork strength. And I was like, and I lifted him up and just like put him against the lockers. I mean, like that one got bang sound. I hit him against it. And I hit him against it, and I was like, what's wrong with you? He's like, why do you keep hitting me like that? and I kept hitting him against it, like his head back and head. And as I'm doing it, the haze goes away. And all of a sudden, I'm like, bang. What am I doing? I'm like, it came back, and he's staring at me, and I'm staring at him, and I'm sure my eyes just kind of went, whoop, and I'm like, oh, crap. And I just like slowed down. I was like, bang. Bang. And then he looked at me, and I'm like, ah! And like he slid down. And he looked at me, he's like, you want to fight? And I didn't know what to say because I've never been in a fight before. And the whole team was staring at me on what I was doing. And he was like, you want to fight? And so I go, yes, I do. I didn't. But those seem like the right words to that question. And he goes, all right. And so I let go of him and I stepped back. He's just like the whole time, like straightening out his shirt. And he's like, as soon as practice is over, it's like you and me at the baseball diamond. And I was like, okay, I'm tough too. And then he walked over to his friends. Our school, Noblesville, where I went, was very similar to here, where you have the whole school, and there's like a little baseball diamond, like just right outside across the little parking lot, just like ours is right across the parking lot. There's a baseball diamond back there. And so I was like, yeah. So I went back over and I sat down next to my friends, and the whole team was like turning and talking. My friend's like, are you going to fight him? And I go, yeah. Like, have you been in a fight before? And I go, no. They're like, he's going to kill you. And I go, yes. But I didn't know what else to do because I said yes, and I couldn't really back out at that point. So I was like, I'm going to get in a fight with the toughest kid on the team because I'm an idiot. And so him and his friends were sitting over there, and they kept giving me like nasty looks, and so I kept doing my best, like, I look tough. And I kept looking at him. I don't think I intimidated him at all. I was like, I think that boy's crazy. And I remember from there, we had to go to the awards ceremony. We had like a little football awards thing, and it was in what was like their LGI. So it was a room, but in Noblesville, it was stadium seating, like when you go to the movie theater and it goes up in stages. And so I remember it was stadium seating like that, and it was like these little hard wooden chairs. And we sat in there, and Darren and Rob and their friends sat in the front because they were going to get awards because they were good at football. And so I sat at the top with my friends because we were all on, the L team. And so we sat up there like, we're not going to get any awards. So we just sat up there. I remember Rob and Darren keep like every time they get an award, like they get the award and they turn like just stare at me. And they're like just staring back at him. And they'd be sitting in the chair and they'd slowly like turn and look at me because I was sitting at the top. I'd be like, angry face. Like look back at him. Like I don't know what I'm doing. So my friends tried to give me advice. And it's always fun when your friends give you advice about things that they have no idea about. Because my friends had never been in a fight either. But they were all eager to watch me get in my first fight. So they kept trying to give me advice. And they were telling me, like, when you get out there, you want to punch through them. And I'm like, I've never punched anybody. I'm like, what do you mean never punched anybody? I'm like, well, you have to understand, I read books a lot. I don't hit people. I hit my brother. Whenever I hit him, I get in trouble. So I don't really hit a lot of people. And whenever I hit him in the squishy bits because it doesn't leave bruises. And so I'm like, they're like, well, when you hit him, you have to be the first one. Always hit him first. In a fight, you'll be the first one to hit somebody. You never want to be the second one. I'm like, why? And they go, I don't know. I'm like, it's great advice then. I'm like, so you want me to get into my first fight and be the first one to throw a punch? And they're like, yeah, because if he hits you first, you're going down and you're not getting back up. And I'm like, you guys are the best friends ever. And so eventually the little award ceremony ended. I remember I kept thinking like, God, wake up. God, wake up. Didn't wake up. This was real. I was going to get into a fight. And so we got done. And the awards ended, and the coach was like, all right, see you guys next season, blah, 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 whatever. And so the whole team was ready for it. The whole team was like, we're going to go watch a fight. So the whole team troops out. And being a coach now, I have no idea how a coach just lets this happen. Where the whole team is like, we're going to go watch a fight. And the whole team is like, and just takes off. And the coach is like, nah, whatever. And just let us all take off. So the whole team, we go out there to this baseball diamond, which is just across the parking lot. I remember it had just snowed or frosted because it was whatever, at the end of the season, it was like an early snowy frost. I remember there was like crunchy, icy stuff on the ground when we were walking out there. I didn't have a jacket on and it was cold. And I was walking out there with my friends. He was walking out there with his friends. And then it was just like you see in movies. they formed a circle around us. We got out there and we were at home plate, and then the rest of the team just formed a big circle. And it was me and my friends around me, and then him and his friends, and like they're talking to us, and like they're doing, because they had no idea what they were doing either. It's like, I've seen this in movies. They're like moving my shoulders and stuff like that, like you're gonna hit him and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then we're like, all right, go. And so Darren and I both walk up to each other, and we're just standing. And I had my hands up because that's what you're supposed to do. Remember, I just had my hands, and he and I are like just looking at each other, and we're just like going, huh, huh. And like neither one of us is throwing a punch because I'm like, I don't want to hit you because I've never hit a kid before, but I really hate you. I hate you so much. There's like so much hatred in me, but I just couldn't make the hatred come out my fist. I was like, it just didn't happen. And he's sitting there and he's just looking at me, and then all of a sudden, he just blasted me in the nose. Wham! And it was just straight into my, it was bam! And like little stars came up and everything. I was like, oh, and it hurt so bad, so much pain. I kind of went crazy because I'd never been hit in the face before. And for some reason, apparently, your nose activates the hate molecules because when he hit me in the nose, all the hatred was like, we're free! And the hatred just came out of me. And I roared. And I charged him. I went, ah! And I just ran at him. And I jumped on top of him. I remember him just going like, oh! And went backwards onto the ground. And I landed on top of him. And I remember I just, like, there was no, like punches. It was just like, and I'm like just yelling. And I remember just like hitting the hard stuff. I was like, dirt, hard, dirt, hard, pushy, hard. Right side, like it just, I could tell because I wasn't looking, like my eyes were closed, but I could tell when I was hitting different material. I would just keep aiming for the hard stuff. I remember I kept hitting him, like there was like yelling and screaming, and he was yelling and screaming, and I was definitely yelling and screaming. And then all of a sudden, his friends pulled me off of him, and he gets up and he keeps yelling, I won!
What?
Right, I'm not done. He gets up, he's like, I won! And I'm like, what? He goes, I won the fight. And I go, what do you mean? He's like, the fight's over. I'm done. He's like, I won the whole thing. And I remember I said these words to him. I'm not done hitting you yet. Because I really wanted to hit him more. Because I was really enjoying it. Because the hatred came out of me. And he was like, it doesn't matter. He's like, where I come from, first blood. Whoever draws first blood wins. And I'm like, we come from the same place. The suburbs of Noblesville. Like, what are you talking about? And his friends all came over, they high-fived, and they just left. And I'm just standing there going, I want to hit you more. Like, I really started liking it. And then my friends came over and they're like, that was scary. And I'm like, it was. Like, no, you were scary. And I'm like, well, I really like the hitting of them part. And from there, like he went over with his friends, and my friends came up and we like did like the post-punching talk. We were just all excited about it. And we were going from there. Like he hit me first, and that punch, like there was blood coming down my nose, but he was bleeding. I mean, if you can imagine just taking ropes and just hitting someone, because that's all my arms were. It was like spaghetti just like whipping all over me. It's like, oh, it tickles. But I mean, I remember like there was like just little cuts on him and stuff like that, but I was really happy about it. It made me so excited. I remember walking out from there to leave, and going down to get in the car. My mom was picking me up from football practice that day. And I remember I was still just on this high of like getting into my first fight. And I sat down in the car. And my mom looked over and she was like, are you okay? I'm like, what? And I was like, oh crap, I forgot. Blood coming down my face. And I'm like, yeah, I just got into a fight. Mom was like, what? I was like, with who? I was like, that kid on the team that kept bullying me I told you about. She goes, oh. And she thought about it for a second. And then she goes, did you win? And I go, I don't know. She goes, how do you not know? I'm like, well, he hit me, and then I hit him a lot, and then he stood up and said, I win, and he walked off. My mom just sort of nodded her head for a moment. She goes, hon, you know fighting's wrong, right? And I go, uh-huh. She goes, honey? I go, uh-huh. She goes, "You want ice cream?" And I went, "Yes." And she took me out to Dairy Queen. And my mom took me to Dairy Queen after my first fight. And I got an Oreo Blizzard, and it was delicious. I still remember sitting there eating an Oreo Blizzard, and I'm thinking, I should get into fights more often. Because it's really fun at the end part of it. But he never bothered me again after that, which I don't know if it was because of the fight or if it's because of the fact that the season was over. And we didn't really run into much of each other because it was 8th grade, and I didn't play football again after that because you go into high school, and apparently in high school you have to have these things called skills, which I did not have. I kept checking my pockets, and there were none in there. And so I didn't play in high school at all, and so I never really had to interact with them. But it was the end of that fight, and it was definitely an entertaining time. That was the one time I stood up to a bully and got ice cream for it. I wish I could tell you that there's a lesson to be learned from here. I have no idea what the lesson is in that story. I don't know if you should stand up to bullies and fight them, but it worked for me. As much as for that one, I figured it was just the entertainment value of getting to go through that journey and experience it with me. Because that story always, it's weird. These things that happened to me when I was a kid, I never would have imagined in 1,000 years that I would be sitting in front of a classroom, like telling kids about it. Like even once I became a teacher, in my first several years, if you would have told me at the end of the year, you're going to tell the story about the time you got embarrassed getting into a fight and the fact that you got punched first by Darren, I'm like, there's just no way I would tell people that story. Or the idea of me getting arrested and telling you guys those stories too. The takeaway from that is you don't know what life has in store for you. Those bad things that happen to you, those weird moments, they serve a purpose in life. You just don't always know what that purpose is. And I know I told you guys that before. But it's those things that I didn't learn for years and years and years. So I figured I would plant those seeds into your brain now, that when you have those things where you get bullied and stuff like that, they can be helpful. Because there's going to come a time someday when you have your own children. And as I mentioned before, being a parent's hard. There's no instruction manual that goes along with it, and some people are not good at it. But one of the first steps is connecting to your kids. And when you can tell stories to your own children, even the embarrassing ones, it helps. And it helps with that bonding and connecting. So someday, hopefully years from now, when you have your own kids, and by years, I mean years, hint, hint, not anytime soon, you will be able to tell stories to your kids and be able to do that same thing. On a different note, I want to thank you guys for this year. 5th period's rough. It's rough every year. I've had really bad 5th periods the last couple of years. And by really bad, I mean my worst class. It became almost a running joke with the other teachers and me, how bad my 5th periods were. And it wasn't that case this year. And that's a complete credit to you guys. And I really do appreciate that. Don't get me wrong. You guys annoy me at times. But you're human. It's going to happen. But there's a difference between being annoying and being bad. And you guys weren't bad. And people who were from my 5th period last year, there's people in my class I liked last year. But you can't deny that you guys had issues as a group. And so that happens every year. I have classes that are overall as a group, they have the wrong mentality, but there's individual kids who are good. For you guys, you have the right mentality. There's kids in here who didn't do their homework. There's kids in here who lost B points. There's kids in here who made poor choices at times. But I didn't see evilness in you. I didn't see anger in you. I didn't see badness in you. I saw goofiness, and goofiness is not bad. I saw the fact that you enjoyed being here, and it's not bad. You just sometimes have trouble controlling your ability to express your joy of being here. And for me, after teaching for 16 years, I've learned that classes have personalities. It's not just the individual students, it's as a group, you guys make up a personality. And you guys start to emulate whatever that personality is. And your guys' personality is a good one. And that's made up from you guys. And that is demonstrated when I need you to be quiet, and you are. When I need you to do what I want you to do, and you do. You guys talk because you have to. It's fifth period. The class is split, your blood sugar gets low, and then your blood sugar spikes back up. It's not all your fault. Part of that is just human body. When your body goes through stuff like that, especially when you're a teenager, and you're already growing, and your body's using energy, and your body's jumping all over the place, it's not an easy thing to control, and I fully understand that, which is why fifth period can be rough. You guys did a good job for me this year, and I know it's not always something you guys think about, that teachers are humans, and as humans, we have emotions, we have kids we like, we have kids we don't like, and when you guys act insane, it does make our life more difficult, but I appreciate what you guys did this year. And think about that in the future when you guys are in a class. Think about the kid that you were for me this year, and my request for you is be that kid again, because it really meant a lot to you. I'll see you guys at the end of the day. There you go.